Welcome back to Creating Powerful Impact. Today's guest is proof that when purpose meets execution, freedom follows. Dr. Param walked away from a career in radiology to become a real estate investor, educator, and freedom mentor for physicians. And she's helped hundreds claim their power through passive income and strategic investing. But this episode is about something deeper, what it really takes to step into the spotlight. She just hosted her first ever Physicians Freedom Summit live. And we're going behind the scenes to unpack the mindset, the mission, and the moments that changed everything. And I just have to say, as somebody who had the honor of producing this event through Grace and Ease Productions, I'm incredibly proud of what she created. Watching her step into her voice, building this movement, and lead from the stage was powerful. All right, so welcome to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you today?
Doing great, Shay. How are you
So
doing?
good. When we first got on here, I was like, where in the world are you actually calling from today? Because I've talked to you when you were in India and when you were in like all over the
In
world.
the
So
airport many times.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to chat with you about just business impact. So let's talk about the moment that you knew it was time to do something perhaps a little bit braver than just another virtual event because you've done so many amazing, successful summits and online events. They're very successful. What kind of inspired you to host your first live event and why now?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And it's a question I kept asking myself throughout the journey. So we have had over 20,000 doctors join us on our virtual events, and they're huge, right? Over 2,000 people registering for each event, done maybe 10 of those at this point. But I think there's a beauty in in-person events, and there's an impact and transformation that happens in them that no virtual event can match. And I was at Date with Destiny last December, and we're recording this 9, 10 months from that event, where I was in the room, I was in state, the music was playing, I was surrounded by amazing people also transforming their lives. And, Tony asked us to think about what our biggest impact would be and what that life would look like and just visualize that, right? And then this people talk about manifesting it all the time, but that's where it started, right? It started with this idea where I said, okay, and you know this, I've been traveling this whole year for personal reasons and because we get to, because we're financially free and that's my passion. But I come back to the United States, I go back to Europe, I keep traveling all the time just to be in the room and be part of those in-person events. And so for me, standing there and when he asked me to think about my impact, the only thing I could say is I want to do something similar. I want to really elevate, like, thousands of people, have them in the room as opposed to being virtual, and have them dream big. And I visualized that. I saw myself doing it. I saw myself on stage. I saw my family there with me. And that's where the idea started, right? And I said, okay, yes, we've done this virtually and we have a lot of impact, but I know the actual transformation that an in-person event can have. And I want to be able to do that for more and more people. And that's how it started. And so it was that inception, that little dream that 10 months later, you guys helped, make transform into this massive event, which has gone on to have tremendous impact.
Yeah, well, and I remember we're like both on stage and you're talking about like I saw this. I saw this 10 months ago, this moment
Yeah.
right here, and seeing
Yeah.
my family in the audience and seeing all these doctors showing up, and it's now come full circle.
Yeah, yeah, it was actually more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. And for someone like me to say that, it means a lot because my standards are always up here. And so, yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you've taught physicians how to buy back their time. And what did it feel like to stand on a stage and realize that you had become a voice people are now wanting to hear from?
Yeah, and so, well, this takes me back. There's so many levels to this, right? So the whole time I've done these events, I've hosted multiple thousands of people, and I was still very nervous about the whole experience, right? And when I spoke to my friends, they couldn't understand it because I've been on other people's stages, right? And I've spoken to 300, 400 people in the room. I've done it before. And so, but it was very, very different hosting my own event as opposed to doing like a 30-minute, 40-minute talk at someone else's event, even though I was on stage speaking in front of people or hosting an event for 2,000 people virtually. It was very different curating that experience for my people in the room where I felt like their entire experience, I felt responsible for it. But just going back to your question, I believe in collective consciousness, right? So and a lot of times people will say, "Did you must feel very proud having accomplished that?" And honestly, that's not an emotion I experienced quite a bit, but I did feel a lot of peace and joy and power in being able to create that transformation. I remember there was a part during the event where I actually did something similar to a guided meditation, but it's more like a manifestation visualization exercise where it's like, I want you guys to then peel out the layers and think about what your biggest impact could be. And I actually felt the energy flow through me, right? And then that's what we are, right? We're always constantly elevating our own energy and the energy of people around us. And I probably have never felt that powerful or in such a powerful state doing that. It was absolutely amazing to know that I was able to allow people to have that experience and then to hear what they were expressing, things that they probably had buried inside, to express their biggest dreams, to be, unapologetically open and to those ideas, and then having them actually go through, okay, but let's set a timeline, let's 10x this, let's get very, very specific because I know that now they will be able to go and execute on that. So it was a very powerful experience overall. And yeah, it's something that I look forward to doing that over and over again.
Yay! I love it. I love hearing that. And I'm kind of curious to talk a little bit about like the mindset of things because live events, they really require just a freaking whole new playbook. Like, let's be
Yes.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you like, how did you go and prepare for the emotional energy of being on in person?
So, like I said, it goes back to no one could understand. My emotions were like up and down, up and down, up and down the whole time, right? Before the event, right? Because it comes back for me, it was like two things, right? I've done the virtual events, which are usually free events, and then there's a VIP experience, but they're free events. And so I deliver like tons of value, right? So it's 9 hours of pure high yield content. And the biggest thing for me was this is an event where people are flying to the event. They're going to be in person, and it has to give them 10 times the value of a free virtual event. And I put myself like I held myself to those standards. And so I was going up and down in terms of am I going to be able to do this? And the other part of the puzzle was that I just didn't understand why it was so hard for me, why I was going through those emotions. It was something I didn't understand. But I think that was like, if I look back, that was the most challenging part with the whole thing. Because I feel like if I had been able to maintain an elevated state where I believed in myself and I believed that I could curate this experience, that would be amazing. And I believed in that. I think it would have been a better experience for me personally, and a prop definitely by virtue of that been a better experience for everyone over there. And so just being completely vulnerable, I didn't expect that level of emotional ups and downs. There were times where I was doubting myself, doubting my ability to, there were the people over there who are completely brand new to real estate investing, and there are people who have massive multi-million dollar portfolios, and it had to be an event that served all of them. And so, from that perspective, it was challenging. It was me getting outside my comfort zone and curating that and building a content that was new, that was more relevant. But in hindsight, I think the biggest takeaway for me was I really need to do whatever I need to do, prime my emotional state and be able to show up every day leading up to the event and during the event and deliver. But the most important thing I need to focus on is my mindset and my faith and my ability to deliver. And so, but it was interesting for me as someone who has mentored thousands of physicians and hosted multiple events to have gone through that. I feel like there will never be a first time again, right? So we did it. Everything was executed perfectly. There was really, and I'm a perfectionist, nothing I can complain about, right? Everything went perfectly well. You guys supported me amazingly. I remember there was a time where I was being pulled in 10 different directions, having 10 conversations at the same time. But if I had to look for my phone and that was what was overwhelming, I'd be like, shit, I don't know where my phone is. And you guys would get it to me. Or if I said, I need to take 10 minutes before we go to lunch so I can work on my slides, then you guys made sure that I was taken care of, right? And so that was a big support. But really, prepping ahead of time, I think, is what I've learned. I think last minute I was still working on some slides. I thought I would have more time than I actually did. And so being more prepared, both from a logistical standpoint for me in terms of, okay, my slides, literally when I got there, I realized that all I had to do was my slides. You guys took care of everything else, but just making sure I had that planned out ahead of time. And then like in terms of the content, but also I would say focusing on my maintaining my state, my emotional state, was probably the biggest takeaway. Where in hindsight, nothing that I worried about, I needed to have worried about.
Yeah.
Everything was just perfect, executed perfectly. The feedback was amazing. People had a great experience. But it goes back to everything said and done. The one thing that you absolutely need to control is your mind.
Mhm.
And I had the right team supporting me,
Mhm.
but that was the one piece where I know that next time I'm going to be more intentional about managing that.
Right. Well, and I think it's normal. It's normal to do a bit of the roller coaster.
Yeah,
What I've seen a number of times for event hosts like yourself is you kind of have to go through a bit of a process in
yeah,
order to then remember where your audience is at and the
yeah,
process that they're going through, right? Because
yeah,
they have their own internal ups and downs, and we saw that in the audience showing up that
yeah,
they're like, I want to do this, but I have this, and I'm a doctor, and I've got a da 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 da
yeah,
da, and like I have juggling all these things, and I'm going multiple places. It's a reminder for you to be like, oh, I see you, I got you.
yeah.
I'm a couple steps ahead.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and show you the way to get out of the pain that you're in, right?
Exactly, exactly. Which brings me back to what I needed to focus on, and I found myself not doing it all the time consistently. Was sometimes I was focusing on me, and am I like it was, can I deliver? Can I give them value? And is this going to be phenomenal? As opposed to focusing on them, and that shift needed to keep happening, and I want to be more intentional about that.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And um, I I want to talk a little bit about the moment where you're like, wait, the whole point when I had like the least amount of slides, everybody raved about that one section. Could
I
you share
know.
like what that was like for you and what came up and tell us more?
It's so interesting. So when we started out, I remember we went over the run of show, and I mean, in hindsight, I mean, what would I have done without you guys? But we went over it multiple times, and I'm thinking, I usually do 3 hours of content during my virtual events. Like, it's actually 90 minutes a day, so that's 4.5 hours of hardcore content, and then mostly Q&A, and that's something I build out. But now we were splitting that into 9 hours of me being on stage, and I think initially I was like, well, how am I going to talk? I just do pure content for 9 hours. It's not something I'm used to. It felt like it was 3x the effort. And then as I was building the slides, I was like, oh my God, I have so much I want to share. This time isn't enough, right? So it was like this huge thing. But then my first talk, I was so focused on the keynote, and probably spent 10 times the amount of time I needed to spend on it. So I just kept going, and I was like, this is the first thing they're going to hear. I wanted to be super valuable. And I spent so much time on it that my last talk, which is my the heart close, where I'm like, really empowering them to take the next step, right? I probably spent a tenth of the time I was supposed to spend on it. And I was working on the slides the morning off, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to, I have these stories that I've wanted to share, and that's what it's going to be. And there was no place to add more to it, right? So I went and shared, and I remember you said this, and I heard this from my friends who were joining, and I told them, just listen to the first talk, listen to the last talk if you don't have time for anything else. And they said it was phenomenal, right? And I didn't get that feedback for any of the other talks. And you said the same thing. It was like every talk needs to be like this. And so it kind of brings us back to this core point where I'm always struggling between over delivering but also having impact, and that balance. It was striking for me to see how the most impactful talk was the one that required the least amount of scripting, right? It just came from the heart, and it was what I really wanted to share. And I think what people loved about it was that it helped them see me in all my shades, right? Like, this is where I come from, this is what I've struggled with. And end of the day, they don't need no one needs a hero. They just need someone, a guy they can relate to who's been through the same thing. And it just probably made me more relatable and showed them that if they're whatever they're going through, I've been there and I am there to support them. And I think that's what resonated. But it was just crazy to see that that was the talk that I had the least amount of time, spent the least amount of time on.
And I think that's also super true of, we want to over deliver, we want to give so much and give them everything we possibly can in these 9 hours.
Yeah.
When in reality, you want them to move into your program where you have a year with them,
Yeah.
right? And you can actually support them and, give spoon feed them the things that they need when they need it versus
Yeah.
like all at once, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
constantly trying to pull content off, like, no, we
Yeah.
don't need this much, but you're like, yes, no.
Yeah, like when you said I can only talk about taxes for 20 minutes, I was like, that is just like
That's
that
not
is
enough.
there's no way this is happening. And no, but you're right. And they do have time within the program to do it. And I feel like part of that is also, and just to be completely vulnerable, right? I'm someone who struggles with imposter syndrome. I was like, no, I need to deliver just to make sure that, they see value in this. And honestly, we talk about this all the time, but it's hard to implement. It's not about the how as much as it's about the why they need to do it and really leaning into that. And so that's another testament to how the why is more important than the how they do it.
Yeah, we're definitely moving out of the information age and more into the connection and, influence and how do we support people human to human.
Yeah,
Because with
yeah,
all the AI and everything out there, and you can Google whatever you need to information wise,
yeah,
we're really looking for that in-person connection, heart story. And I think that's why your last talk landed so incredibly well.
yeah.
I know that you've helped physicians reach financial freedom. But what do you think that they're really craving underneath like all the spreadsheets and the cash flow charts and looking at properties and all of that? What are they really craving?
Shay, and it's such an important question, right? Because like initially on the from above, it looks like we're talking about real estate. We aren't. We're talking about financial freedom. But even more relevant, that is, we're talking about security first, and then we're talking about impact, right? Same thing with me. That my husband and I both lost our jobs when my daughter was under one, and at that point, I was just looking for security. I just wanted to know that we would never have to go through something like that again, right? And everybody wants that. Everyone wants to know that they have the security of that whatever, like they need to have a roof over their head and the three meals and basics are completely covered. That's the first thing. And then now I'm at a stage where it's more than just that. It's like what drives me, what helps, gets me awake and gets me going in the morning is how can I impact other people, right? And that's a very human thing. If you remember one of the last stories I talked about, even someone who is completely disabled and is reliant on others, really still, everyone thrives when they grow and contribute to others. And it's a basic human need. And now it's all about impact. And it's almost unpacking those layers and helping people see what their how if they live their best life without any inhibitions and with all the security that they needed and they had all the resources available at their fingertips, how much of an impact they could have. And I'm realizing more and more that where I started from a place of how do I get everyone to be secure and get that financial security, now it's becoming more and more about, look, if you had everything go your way and you had the freedom to do anything and money was never constrained, how would you change the world? And that's what it boils down to. And allowing people to see that and dream and use that as the force that drives them forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's take a bit of a detour. I'm in my seat here. I feel that there's nothing like an event to really elevate your authority,
Yeah.
but it also stretches your identity. So, how did hosting an event shift the way that your audience sees you or how you see yourself?
Yeah, so that's a very powerful thing. And I was reading this book. Well, so I'm sure many of your listeners also have heard of Alex Hormozy. And something Alex always talks about is you can take revenue from your business and you can take that as profit and invest it. And like I say, throw it into your money machine, make it make more money for you, right? I could say pull out the money. Or something that companies that grow do is they take the capital and they use it to brand themselves and grow their brand and position themselves as like as the authority in their field, or they use it to bring on new talent. And I see in-person events like, and we've done virtual events and the overhead is like, it's just like crazy low. And you probably have a marketing budget, and sometimes you have sponsorships that cover that, and then ticket sales cover. And you have your in-person event, and the numbers look very, very different over there. But what it does do is that it really helps build you as this person who is an authority in the space. It really does a lot for your brand. It's actually capital and dollars you're putting towards marketing. And especially in a time like this, in an economy like this, no one is able to do that unless they're actually flourishing and thriving. And so there's also this perception where people realize that you're doing something right, right? And then they see you as an authority. So it helps on multiple levels from a branding and marketing perspective. And for entrepreneurs and owners thinking about this, especially thought leaders, people who are trying to build a brand, it really does take it to the next level. Virtual events are amazing. People get to know you. But especially for people in your community who want to see you, be with you in the space, in the same space as you, so they can go to the next level. I think, yes, on the periphery, everybody saw this and it was great for the brand because they know that we are a thriving brand and we believe in these interpersonal connections. But even for people within the community, it's very different being in the room with someone and seeing them and connecting with them as opposed to just like looking at everything virtually. Like you said, especially with AI, those authentic connections, it's a completely different level when you have in-person events. And so I think it is us investing into branding and marketing and ensuring that we are growing and positioning ourselves as a company that is constantly growing and innovating, which is necessary. I think it's important for our investors, our community, our clients to see that. So it positions ourselves differently while giving them the ability to really have those human connections.
So talking about that positioning, has any opportunities or new visibilities opened up for you since you did this in-person event?
Well, so the opportunities are on multiple levels, right, Shay? So one, our affiliates are vendors. Now they see us as someone who,
Mhm.
we're capable of throwing this event in one of the worst economic cycles. I mean, what happens when capital flow increases, right? So we're positioning ourselves with them. We're positioning ourselves with our investors and our students because they know that, hey, while others are shrinking, I mean, literally, I've spoken to people whose revenue is 10% of what it used to be in the peak of the cycle, which is 2021 and 2022, right? So they know that we are doing something right, or, and we are investing in ourselves. So it helps us over there, but it also helps us with peers. I think the biggest impact for me has been, yes, our students love it and they just see that we're at the next level. But our peers, I was talking to peers, and everyone has seen our social media posts. They know what
Yeah.
we've done. And although we've always been a company like, both GW Capital, where we invest passively in real estate and in the coaching community, they now see us as a leader in the space, right? So it's just so interesting to see that across three separate dimensions where we're positioning ourselves not just with our investor base or our students, but also our vendors are looking at us differently, our peers are looking at us differently. More and more people are coming and telling us, talking to us about partnership opportunities, which I've been the one seeking those opportunities in the past. And now they're coming to me and saying, hey, how would you feel about partnering on this? Oh my God. Like someone I see as not just a pure mentor, said, Param, if you ever have a board of advisors, I would be honored to be on the board. And I know we're getting there in a few years, and that's the direction we're going. But to hear that, I think the event has a lot to do with that. Because
That's
otherwise, no
amazing.
one knows our revenue numbers, right? No one knows what we're doing. But this is pure. I almost want to say marketing genius if you think about it. Because, well, A, you can only do it if you can afford to do it if you're thriving and the numbers make sense, right? Not everyone is able to pull it off. But when you do it, then you're positioning yourself very differently. You're setting yourself apart.
Yeah. And I mean, even before we were done with the event, all of your sponsors are like, "Can I sign up now?
Oh
Can I
my
get a
God.
this year's discount? Because I know that you're going to be charging more next time." And like all
Yes.
of these questions, which I love.
Yes, yes, yes. And honestly, this year is going to be a lot easier. So the first time is done. That's what I say. The first time is done, y'all. So it can never be the same, as the learning curve. This is going to be a different learning curve, but it's never going to be as steep as the first time around.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, and as you've mentioned, we had the honor of supporting you, Grace and East Productions, supporting you and being in your corner by your side. Looking back, is there anything that you were like, oh, thank God I ended up bringing them on, or any advice for people that are like, man, maybe I'll try and DIY my first event?
Oh my God, yes, yes. And so I was thinking about this again, just like the last week. And so typically the first event is when you're thinking, let me just try to figure this out. And I feel like the first event is when you don't want to be figuring it out because there's so many other things you're figuring out. Right. And so for me, it was more, um, eh, what is the word I'm looking for? It was like the entire experience was like this luxury experience for me because I just came there. All I did was work on my slides. I know you guys were running meetings in the background. And so the thing for entrepreneurs is, especially for entrepreneurs with small teams, is that, and we did have team members, and in hindsight, we could have had more team members to support. But there's always also flux within the team. And so, these events are planned out months ahead of time. And so the biggest takeaways for me were A, like you need to plan this out 10 months ahead of time. And then to have someone with me throughout the period, we had some team members come in, some exit through the whole period. And so just having the event team kind of take care of everything, be there. Some of them couldn't be there for half the meetings. And so you guys were the constant, right? And so
Mhm.
it translated throughout the event, not just vendor comparisons, but like everything, right? Communicating with the sponsors, we did a lot of that internally, like we'd planned on, but just a higher level of professional communication going out. That again also helps with positioning your brand, right? I mean, your sponsors want to see that. And then coming in there and not having to figure out with my team who's never set up sponsor booths, little things like where do we put up the step and repeat banner so that we have the best pictures and the best visibility? Or how do we get people to go into the sponsor room so that they feel like they're getting their bang for their buck? I didn't have to think about it. Let's talk about the time when someone walked in there and I was like eating the food that you guys got me so I could work on my slides before my last presentation, where someone goes, well, the fire alarm people are here. And I could just, all I had to do was, I'm just putting my headphones on. I'm not even listening to this because A, my team doesn't need to be here because poor Tommy was probably doing 10 other things. You guys were there to take care of it. And it didn't even come to me. Like, you don't even need to have a conversation with me. As opposed to sometimes I think team members want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So they're always approaching me. This was like having someone on par with me that was completely taking care of things and nothing needed to come to me. And I can't imagine having worked on any of those last minute slides if I had one other thing to think about. I wanted to think about getting my hair done, taking care of my kids, making sure they were dressed appropriately for the event. There were other things that I wanted to focus on. And so I felt completely supported. So yes, especially if you have a small team, especially if it's your first time, it almost feels like a no-brainer to bring on an event planning team, especially someone with the expertise and the sophistication that you guys bring to the event, who have an experience leading hybrid events. And I knew I wanted it to be a hybrid event. I knew I wanted it to be a fancy event where people felt like, and I had interviewed other event planners. I wanted them to represent our brand, which is very professional, very much client and customer facing, right? And I knew from the beginning, because I know I'd spoken to event planners where they would say, hey, we can only have so many calls. I'm only going to get touch base like once before the event, once during the event. And then by the way, no, you can't have more than 30, 40 people in the room for your first event. That's not happening. And I was like, I need someone who believes in me. I need someone who is going to like support me. You guys gave me more calls than I needed to. Like sometimes I'd come in and say, wait, this is supposed to be a 2 hour meeting, guys. I don't have time for it. So you gave me more time than I needed to or asked for, as opposed to people who said, A, we couldn't do it at the scale that we did it, or B, that there was only, like there were limits on how I could approach them. I remember towards the end, we set up a WhatsApp communication channel to do things. But the thing is that that support, sometimes your team, and my team was figuring, so they're amazing. They figured so much out, but there was so much else that needed to happen for this event to have the degree of sophistication that it ended up having. And so that's
Right.
where, like I said, especially if it's your first event, and especially if it is a small team, then um, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you aren't getting someone to take care of a lot of those things for you. And really won't know it until you actually go through the process. Yeah, so.
You think you're saving money, but you're probably not, right?
Yeah, a lot of the negotiations also, right? Like I know even now Marcy's taking a look at the bill because I was like, "Oh, Marcy, looks like something's off here." And she was like, "This should have come to me. I don't know why it came to you. Give it to me." Right? It's off my plate. I don't have to look at it, right? Or if I said, "Oh my God, my parents are coming a day late. Can you make sure, da 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 da, can you make sure?" I don't have to go and have this conversation with someone. I just hand a lot of those things off. And I know any entrepreneur out there knows the value of who knows the value of their own time, knows the value of bringing on a team that can protect your time and uh, your mental space during the event.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about that ripple effect.
Yeah.
Were there some, like, what would you say were the most powerful transformations or takeaways you witnessed in the attendees for being in person with you?
Yeah, I'll start off with the near term, like short term impacts that I've seen, which are easy to quantify, right? It's easier to quantify. One of our speakers who came there to do the movement, the morning workouts and the movement pieces with us, she ended up signing for the program because she's a single mom, and she was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm not doing this. I should be doing this. I want to, that freedom for myself. So she ended up signing up. We just had our first one-on-one call. She's a massive action taker. I know she's going to do amazing. Now she wants me to go talk to her community of women physicians who she coaches so that they can have the same freedom. And so she wants them to have the same impact, right? So we're collaborating on, spreading the word. So there's that, right? And then there was one of the attendees, like I said, people who are just starting and there are people who have massive portfolios. One of our attendees, she manages this eight-figure portfolio for herself and her family. And she is, hey, you know what? I think I need to do this. And look, I connected her to our team. And now she's closing on her short-term rental, which is going to give her multiple six figures in tax savings for this year and a property that cash flows multiple six figures every year going forward. So that's massive action right there. One of our students who was there is now joining our program and she is going to be supporting us as she scales her portfolio. So it's going to be like a mentorship where she's scaling and she's supporting us. So a lot of different things. But I think the biggest, like those are short term, right? So I can see that happening before my eyes. But when we did the whole, let's see, what is your biggest impact that you were born, to give to the world? What is the biggest gift you can give to the world? Let's put that in writing. When we did that exercise, there were so many people who talked about how they would impact their communities, and books that they would write. And one of our attendees, he said this is his dream was to write this book about art of living, right? How do you live a better life and share what he had to share, and have 5 million people be impacted by it. And so I think that is like the bigger picture things that we're either afraid to think about because it seems like it's too big to achieve unless you're in a space where you are given permission to think about it. But also, we're so bogged down by the little day-to-day things that we don't have the space to think about it, right? And so it was a place which shed all those barriers and allowed you to dream big so you could use that to fire yourself and those stories. And I know he said it, he put it out there, and I was like, give me a time frame, give me an actual number, because that's how you make it happen. And so I'm waiting for that to happen. But there's the near term effect, which everyone's focused on, but I am excited for all these people because I see the bigger impact where they will do all these amazing things and they will use real estate as a vehicle, and then they will have kids and grandkids who will live bigger lives because they dare to.
I love it so much. That's amazing. So as we kind of start to wrap up, I mean, you've now stepped on the stage, your own in-person stage. What's calling you next? What's the next thing that we're focusing on? What's it looking like?
So it's looking like just taking this and 10xing this, right? Like, how can we do more? How can we get clearer? How can I have a better more stabilized experience during the whole thing, and then just going and increasing the impact that we have. I know, oh, I forgot to mention this. We didn't talk about this. We raised over close to $5,000 during the event. We did a live fundraising. And, in our community, we do that all the time. We support nonprofit missions, but this was like, for me, this was the first time ever where they were able to talk to the operators, see the actual victims, contribute, and then and we got a video back showing all the supplies that we were able to deliver. This just reminds me this needs to go out in one of our emails. So, like taking that and having an event where we have 10x the number of people, but also raising 10x the amount that we did, actually 100x, we can do it. Like, so I'm looking at these events as potentially having much bigger impacts in our community and also in the world as we start growing this.
Yeah, and it was
So,
so
excuse me.
great because the nonprofit that we were supporting, one of the nonprofits, was not only are the audience members learning how to utilize houses and building their portfolio, but then the nonprofit was building homes
I
for those
know.
that had lost it in disasters, natural disasters, and things of that nature. So it was like
Yeah,
a really nice full circle to be able to learn and give back.
absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes I keep forgetting all the magical things that happen, but that was one of the most impactful things.
I love it. I love it. Last question for you is what's one truth you hope every expert or entrepreneur walks away with from today's experience?
Can I do two?
You can do too.
So the first one's always going to be who, not how, right? Do not try to figure out how you're going to host this magical event. Find the people who are going to help you do it. The more I go down my own path, I realize that on multiple levels for every entrepreneur, right? That's one big thing. Don't try to figure it out yourself. Find the person who can do it for you. And the second one's going to be 10x is easier than 2x. And they're both books by the same authors, but the concept holds true for business owners. And, you know, hosting this in-person event was definitely a 10x goal for us. It was a stretch goal, not it's any similar to anything we've done before. We've hosted meetups. We've had, 2,000 people, virtual events. This was completely different. But the impact that this has on our business and our branding and our community is 10x what just doubling the size of our virtual event would have done. And so I want people to lead with those two things.
I love it. I love it. If anybody's interested in connecting with you, learning more about what is you guys are up to, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to gwcapital.com, and there's a book a call over there. They can talk to the team, they can connect with us, and we have tons of free resources over there. But that's probably the easiest way to go to one place and find out more about us and connect with us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I hope you take all these lessons and these resources that you've learned, implement them so that you can create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.